it's Louise Hvala and you're watching Gatehouse Insights. On today's episode, I'm joined by Elva Zhang, who's the Corporate Counsel at A&L and founder of Peace Lab. Elva, it is such a pleasure of having you on the show today.
Thank you for having me here, Louise.
So you were originally from China,
Yeah.
and you moved to Australia to do your law degree.
Yeah.
What was the desire to move to Australia and why practice law?
So I came to Australia actually as a result of a high school exchange program. So that was initially in Brisbane. So I spent the first year in Brisbane and I really enjoyed studying there, and I was actually studying international school but next to a boy college. So one of my colleagues now, he used to go to that boy college. We used to joke. I said, yeah, the joke was I used to be a boy, but that's just something funny to talk about. But for law is, when I was a child, I've always wanted to help people. And even when I was in China, I felt very inspired, to change the world or, to make the world a better place. I guess that actually applies to a lot of law students these days. So when I was watching TV and watching news, for whatever reason, I came to this conclusion that people who are making positive change in the world, they're all normally lawyers. Abraham Lincoln, Gandhi, they all seem to have a legal background. So that little younger me made this connection. If you want to make the world a better place, you have to do law. So I guess that's why the impetus why I wanted to do law. And
tell us a little bit more about your legal career journey from studying in Melbourne.
Yeah.
You also studied in Switzerland, and
Yes.
how you secured your position at A&L.
Yeah, right. So I left Brisbane after I did my year 11 equivalent in the school, then came down to study at Melbourne. I have to be honest, it wasn't very easy because English wasn't my native language to study law. But that being said, it was a great experience. So I did law and arts in Melbourne, and then when I finished my degree, I went to Legal Counsel to be qualified. So that's about 2007 now. Wow, that's a long time ago. If you remember, that was actually during GFC. So to secure the first job as an international student was, now looking back, was a very enlightening experience that really trained me to be very resilient. So my first proper lawyer job was almost a year later after I was qualified. And my first lawyer job was working in personal injury but Commonwealth compensation, was a very specialized jurisdiction. Although, that wasn't my desired area of practice, I have to say it really gave me a great start. The partner who trained me, he was highly experienced in the field and he was a very strict taskmaster. So, as a law student, you learn something very academic, but when you start practicing, it's completely different. So I felt even my writing skill and my analytical skill improved dramatically, through learning from him. So I'm always grateful for that experience. And then about 18 months later, I was able to find a job at A&L Container Line, which is a shipping line. It used to be an Australian national line. So for that job, because I'm always interested in international trade, and when I went for the interview, I remember very clearly, I told the partner, the general counsel, I said to him, I'm happy to start again, because it's a completely new field. So yeah, I think is because of my determination and my passion for the area and secured me the job there. So I was there with them for about 2.5 years, and the matters are also interesting. It's all cross-border, and maritime law is very different from the other area of practice. It's very ancient in a way. A lot of the laws actually originate from maritime, the trade. So I love dealing with our clients and the customers, and the matters are very diverse in nature. And then I went back to private practice for about 6 months, very short. And after that, then I went to study in international economic law in Geneva at Graduate Institute of International and Development Studies. That path was because I still wanted to give a try my childhood dream. My childhood dream was to be a lawyer, but in particular to be an international lawyer. So I followed my dream. I went to Geneva, and it was a fantastic experience because Geneva is a fascinating city. It's like an epic center of international diplomacy, but also all the brilliant-minded people, they all swamped to Geneva to study. I have to say that my experience in Geneva was a turning point of my life as well. So when I left Geneva, when I came back to Melbourne, the general counsel where I was working at A&L, because they were so busy, so he just said to me, would you be interested to come back to work? So I said, okay. because I was going through some underlying changes within myself after my time in Geneva. So that came out just, synchronistically. So now I'm back working as a corporate counsel at NL, and as I'm doing other creative projects on the side. Yeah.
How did you secure the position at A&L?
The first time around?
Yeah.
Oh, it was very interesting. Actually, I was doing some work with, Law Institute.
Yes.
So I was involved in the Young Lawyer section. And I was the co-chair of the Community Issues Committee back then. So I was working with Legal Counsel and working on the projects for international law students. And I remember at that time, the director of Legal Counsel, she said, we were talking about looking for jobs, especially for international students. So she just said, I'll keep an eye on for you. And then a few weeks later, she sent me this job advertisement from A&L. So I applied for it. Literally the due date was next day. And yeah, it just happened. I think sometimes things happen. Yeah, so the rest was history.
There are lawyers within the legal profession that think that they're at a disadvantage because of their cultural background or being an international student or an international lawyer. Have you found this to be the case, and what have you done to actually overcome this belief?
That's a very good question, because being a Chinese myself, I guess if you ask me this question when I was at law school, it would be slightly different how I answer it now with the perspective of wisdom now. I wouldn't say it's a disadvantage, but I can definitely say there are challenging aspects. In my personal case, I can only speak from my own personal experience. Language is a big thing, because English wasn't my native tongue, and of course I speak Mandarin as my mother language. And so when I was studying at Melbourne Law School, I have to say it was very hard. I still remember when my first law class was tort law, and I was sitting there thinking, what is tort? I have no idea what does tort mean. So I rang my mum after that class. I said, Mum, I don't think I can do law in Australia. I don't even understand the subject of my law. My mum just said, just go back, for another class. Don't give up just too quickly. And in my second class, I realized the person sitting next to me, who was Australian, local, didn't even know what tort was. I think that was the only motivation. I'm thinking, I should just give this one more try, and I'm glad I didn't give up. So that was one obvious and challenging aspect. But culturally, apart from the linguistic difficulty, I would say culturally, because even with the law, it's very much based on the society, a lot of social subjects and contexts. So a lot of stuff I'm not familiar with, coming from a non-common law jurisdiction. So the Chinese legal system is very different. So for me to understand that from a social and cultural perspective, that was hard to start with. Then talking about the working context, I guess the cultural aspect is for us, for example, we respect our senior people, and we're very passive in general. I hope I'm not generalizing, but overall, we try not to have a more aggressive approach in work. Normally we try just to do our work, So the traditional value might be slightly different culturally. However, that being said, after working here for many years, I think more and more companies are embracing different cultures and diversities in the workplace. So I really wouldn't say now as a disadvantage, yeah. But definitely wasn't easy to start with though, yeah.
And what are some of the benefits of being a Chinese lawyer?
Definitely benefits now, and as I said before, the linguistic difficulty, but now I can see a total advantage. For example, for me, working in a shipping line, which is a very multicultural environment, with the people I work with, but also with the subject matter, I deal with a lot of the matters pertaining to China, but pertaining to Asia as well. So the mere fact I can speak, I can write, I can read Chinese fluently, that was a huge advantage. So that's why sometimes I talk to people coming from international law background, international students background. I always say to them, look for opportunities where you can maximize and utilize your advantage, your linguistic advantage, for that example. But even from a cultural perspective, I guess because we're doing a lot of business with Asia, and because there's still nuances with the cultural difference. So if you're coming from that background, people will always come to ask you, so how should I handle this particular client? And they always will come to seek your expertise, because you're being a native person from that culture. So I would say, following your the last question, the disadvantage can really be utilized and changed to be the advantage. Yeah, and so if we change our perspective and if we find the right opportunity and right place, really it will work for us rather than against us.
I wanted to move us into meditation,
Yeah.
because it's something you're very passionate
Definitely.
about. And it's something that you found when you were actually an international law student to help you get through the challenges of university and being an international student.
Yes.
Can we dive deeper into this time and how you used meditation to overcome those issues?
Yeah, going back to what I just mentioned about when I was at law school, it was definitely quite challenging and stressful, and on multiple levels, the language and the amount of work. And also, I guess people going to study law are normally the type A personality. Melbourne Law School is definitely a kind of a collection of brightest of the brightest. So for me back then, I think I was feeling really stressed. And I always felt I wasn't doing enough, wasn't good enough, for example, at the back of my mind. So I, maybe towards the very last year of my uni, or maybe second last year, I knew I needed to do something about it. But back then, it's almost 10 years ago now, the environment of like openly practicing meditation or yoga is very different from now. And I was a bit scared to be seen being a bit hippie or like being out there. So I thought, okay, I need to, and also because I'm from China, I do have a vague understanding of meditation, although I've never experienced it. So all I did was I started researching what I can do and reading books. I didn't actually go out and seek out an external teacher because for the reason of fear being judged. But that's all my personal perception. So I started meditating at home. So I think for about 6 months when I first started, I was meditating every day for an hour, just to force myself. And so after 6 months, it somehow I had a more established practice. And I can definitely say, towards the very last year of uni, which was very, very stressful, it really helped me, especially that grounding aspect, because when you're at school studying or when you are working, or I was working part-time, there were so many noises around me. And sometimes I couldn't help, feeling that sense of insecurity as a result of studying law. So the only thing gave me that kind of sense of solace and kind of security was when I was meditating. Then after finishing uni, it took me a year to find my first lawyer job. So within that year, and also when I started working as a junior lawyer, I realized my stress level was peaked. It was a different level of stress. I guess the intensity and the substance of stress a bit different. So that was a time I actually can truly see the benefit of meditation. So I had a more kind of a consistent practice since then when I started to practice as a junior lawyer. In the past, I've been meditating maybe for the past 10 years now. I wouldn't say, every day I would meditate, or maybe not even every week sometimes, but that is always a source of peace for me. And to me, I realized that's the best gift I can give myself, because I spend that time just for myself, be myself and by myself. And to go within that deeply, initially I started with the stress management, but having practiced for coming to a decade now, I realized apart from the stress management, I gain a lot of wisdom and insight when I'm able to shut myself from the noise, external voice, to come really within. So it's a sense of kind of that profound connection, which I'm truly grateful for myself, actually. Yeah, but it's a different level of connection to yourself.
When you meditate, is it usually for an hour, or do you do?
Now, no. It's funny, when I started it was an hour, but now maybe because I've been practicing for so long, 15 minutes, or even in the morning, this morning I think I did maybe 10 minutes when I get up in the morning, and before I go into bed, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I would say 20 minutes will be maximum now, But also I've been having this conversation with a few friends, because a lot of people actually have been asking me now about meditation. And people think you have to sit there, zone, om and cross-legged. But it's actually not just about that. It's about how we define meditation. Meditation can be a technique, but it also can be, in its broadest term, an attitude. The attitude of equanimity, the attitude of making peace with life even though you're surrounded by chaos. So if we can bring that technique and transform to be an attitude into our life, you can meditate when you're shopping, you can meditate when you're walking, you can even meditate when you're driving a car. So I guess that's what I'm really truly passionate about, to transform, not, to bring it to be a technique first, then to really bring it into life. Yeah.
Now, you're also trained in laughter yoga.
Yes, I am.
Tell us more, because I'm curious about it.
Yeah. So I encountered laughter yoga when I was in Italy, in Tuscany, July 2013. I was actually doing a leadership program there, and I was on my way to study international law in Geneva. So my own mindset at the time was very serious, a very serious person. So I encountered the laughter session because one of the participants, she was from Lebanon. She was the CEO of Laughter Yoga Lebanon. And I thought, Lebanon is a very serious place, they need a bit of laughter. So she ran a beautiful session and we all laughed, but I have to profess, because I was in a very serious mindset, deep down I thought, it's not for me. I'm a serious person. I'm going to go to Geneva, study international law. Nah, not for me. I need to be professional, I need to be confident, I can't laugh. Life has a very interesting plan, and 2 years later, and when I came back to Melbourne, I somehow remember my experience. So I thought, I wanted to find out a bit more about laughter yoga. So I went to be trained in laughter yoga, and now I'm to share laughter yoga with other people. The thing with laughter yoga is, it is, at a very technical perspective, it is using laughing as a way to get rid of stale air. Because 70% of our lung capacity is actually filled with stale air. Modern day living is very stressful by nature, so most of us, we breathe very shallowly. So we don't really actually engage the diaphragm to breathe. So in the laughter yoga, we using laughing to exhale, but in a more childlike way. And when I practice laughter yoga in a group session with others, I always joke, I'm not a comedian. You actually make a very powerful choice in your own mind. Say to yourself, I choose to laugh, I choose to smile. So initially it's very weird. And it's really, really strange because we are actually very conditioned when to laugh. So the quality of laughter as adults is very different as the quality from children or even kids and toddlers. Smile and the laughter are the most natural thing for babies to do. But as we grow older, we were told we need to be very serious, very professional. So we made this linkage between being serious means we're more professional or we're more competent. So now I always pose this question to my participants, why we need to be so serious? Why can't we just a bit more relaxed, a bit more playful? And when we practice laughter yoga also, it's another form of mindfulness. You're very much in the body, and you give your brain the signal and the permission to laugh and to be again, not just constantly doing things. So yeah, I'm very passionate about laughter yoga as well. And it's really utilize some positive emotion, the sense of joy. I found personally meditation is very good for changing the thought patterns and to calm the stress. But laughter yoga works its wonder when to uplift the mood, utilize our positive emotions. Yeah.
And in 2015, you launched Peace Lab. Tell us more about the business and what programs you run.
Okay, so Peace Lab was literally born out my own stress, anxiety, and negative self-talk. I think I briefly mentioned just before, my time in Geneva completely shifted my perspective. I guess when I went there, I had a glamour vision of wanting to stay there to practice international law. But then I realized maybe it wasn't for me. That was a kind of epiphany I gained when I was studying in Geneva. And so when I left, initially I was a bit disheartened. I was a bit lost because I thought I pursued my childhood dream. We meant to be pursuing our childhood dream and they should come over to full fruition. But it wasn't for me in that case because I felt that misalignment deep down within. So after doing a little bit soul searching in 2015, I thought what really gives me a sense of joy, I want to share with other people. That was the moment actually I realized my childhood dream was to help people, to change the world, to make contribution. So the form, at that time I thought it was being a lawyer, but the substance was never changed, it was wanting to help. So that's why I thought maybe I can find a better form, a more aligned form for this me now. So that was the time I realized maybe I want to share with meditation. And also then that was the time I got trained in laughter yoga. So for Peace Lab, it's really was created to utilize techniques such as meditation, and laughter, and play. I share my session, I call them Laughter Zen Play Shop. So it's laughter, Zen is a meditation, play shop because it's not the workshop. We play like children as a way to counter stress, to encourage people to really to find more positive responses to stressors, because you could be working in a very high demanding jobs, you could be studying a very stressful environment, or you could be a working mom or working dad juggling multiple responsibilities. We can't change a lot of the stresses in our life, but we do have the power, a conscious decision to have a different response to them. So that's what I'm really passionate about through that. So I run Laughter Zen Play Shop, but then I normally structure them to different weekly sessions, because I found based on neuroplasticity, neuroscience, it takes a while for the brain to actually rewire itself. So if we practice meditation or laughter yoga or and play for a consistent, say, 6 weeks and 9 weeks, the brain would absorb these experiences. Then it will provide you the opportunity to have a new perspective on these things. So I tend to go to the companies and the schools and to offer it, as a part of a well-being program. But I also run public classes through Laneway Learning, and hopefully in the near future I'll be able to find a place to run public class through Peace Lab as well.
How do you split your time between Peace Lab and being a corporate counsel at A&L?
So 70% of the time I work at A&L, and 30% of the time I work for Peace Lab. But that being said, on weekends at night, and I spend a lot of time on Peace Lab as well. And I have to walk and talk to talk. I do get stressed as well, and sometimes I have to, you have to zone, you have to just, kind of take a deep breathing and just center yourself. But when you do things you love, you don't feel tired. You do feel tired, but I feel tired but satisfied. Does it make sense? Yeah. I guess having started my journey with Peace Lab, it made me a much better lawyer as well. It's my second time, working at A&L, but I can see myself feel very different, because I think I'm able to, I'm very lucky. I can still utilize my intellectual brain working as a lawyer, but I can fully also utilize my intuitive and creative side as well through my work with Peace Lab. So I feel a lot more balanced. Unlike before, the stress was my kind of misalignment. I always constantly thinking, engage my intellectual brain. I have no outlet for my creativity. So now I have to say I'm very fortunate in that regard.
You touched on something now, and you spoke about stress, and that you used to feel stressed. Being a lawyer, you understand the pressures of what lawyers face every day. How can they use meditation to help them throughout the day and overcome these challenges of stress, anxiety?
I guess for the legal profession, there's a tons of research out there shows that the legal profession has the highest propensity for mental illness or even just psychological kind of disturbance. And I guess it has something to do with the nature of our work as well, because our work is always problem solving. So we're not looking something fluffy or happy. We normally, when the matters come to us, is either an issue or problem we need to resolve. And for us, we always have to look at what are potential risks. So in a way, our brain, in our day-to-day job, is geared towards the negative side. So I find when you're surrounded, also the amount and the quantity of work is always quite high. And for private firm lawyers, of course, there's a billable hours as well. So there's a time pressure. So for me, if I can give some very simple techniques, breathing. Deep breathing is the quickest way to calm your body and mind. So just make sure you take a deep breath and make sure the air travels through your lungs and to the belly, abdomen. So that would actually activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's the quickest way. And the second tip I gave people, I know it sounds a bit kind of funny and ridiculous even, is smiling. I use smiling as a way to counter stress for myself. Then I started doing research, I realized there's a reason for it, because when we smile, have a genuine smile with the the muscles around our mouth and the eyes, the brain actually thinks you're having something lovely, you're enjoying something. So there's a happiness loop. So I'm happy, I smile, but when you smile first, the brain, you can trick your brain to feel slightly more relaxed as well. So that is two things I do on a day-to-day basis, and I found that really helps me. In terms of meditation, in the morning when you wake up, that's a good time. And also a very good thing to do is to say to yourself what I'm grateful for. Gratitude or appreciation. So I do that in the morning. I actually would get up and just sit in my bed, do a mini meditation, say, I'm grateful I'm alive. I'm grateful if the weather is good in Melbourne, I'm grateful it's a sunny day or something. Very simple things, not massive and big stuff. Just count the simple kind of blessings in life. And the same I would do before I go to bed. Even if the day hasn't gone, perfectly well, I'm grateful, I had a decent day. I'm grateful I'm going to have a new start tomorrow. And I felt that would put me into perspective as well. And then you have a very simple meditation. If for new beginners out there, your thoughts will come into your mind all the time. And the simple technique I use is visualize, but imagine all the stress and thoughts as clouds. Like no matter how massive, thick, fluffy they look like, they will pass. But I imagine myself being the sky behind the clouds, so I am permanent, although the clouds will come and go. That's the simple techniques. And you can always laugh, watch a comedy and everything, because it's really good for the brain. It releases endorphins and dopamine and serotonin. And that's why laughter is the best medicine. Or come to Laughter Zen Play Shop.
What can firms and companies do to help their people manage these issues?
That's a very good question. I felt one thing I would say is, a lot of discussion has been on the topic of mental illness or mental health issue. But maybe being a Chinese, and I'm more familiar with Chinese medicine, I always favor a more preventative approach, a more holistic approach. Because once we start talking about mental illness and mental health, that means the problem is already there. And that's why in my own personal experience, I've realized a lot of younger lawyers, even law students, they actually don't really manage stress because for them it's not a problem. I'm not that sick yet, And until it becomes illness, they start paying more attention to you. So I would like to see the whole legal profession, whether you work in a firm or in a company or in a government sector or even in a court, the topic should be changing the paradigm from illness to well-being. And also by doing that, that will remove the stigma about mental illness. And in my own personal experience, I guess that was the reason why, even though I would be very honest, I had the bouts of depressive thoughts, as periods, but I never sought out any formal counseling because I felt, I'm quite tough in my younger years, even when I was a law school, very stressed out. I don't want to be judged. I know maybe inherently I associate that with weakness or something, and that's a mental illness. And now with, again, I felt like I'm a lot more mature now and a bit wiser now, and I felt if we can actually discuss that from approach the point of well-being, that would encourage more students, law students and lawyers to look at this whole issue from a different perspective. It's not when you become sick that you start looking after yourself. Start learn how to manage your stress, respond them differently even now, before it's too late. And so if the firm or if the whole legal profession can openly discuss that, and from the perspective of well-being, that'll be far more encouraging. And then that will welcome, that will encourage law students, especially law students and younger lawyers, to be more mindful how to deal with stress before it kind of becoming something not manageable later on. So that would be one thing I think, comes in my mind, I think will be really important. Yeah, and of course, from a more basic level, the firms or wherever they work for, they can support their employees, with open forum discussions on if they want in-house supports, all these things as part of care. So yeah, but that needs to be worked in conjunction with ourselves, internal and external. Yeah, we can't rely on just external support. We need to also work on ourselves, and then with that external support, the benefit will literally multiply.
And what are your future dreams and plans with law and Peace Lab?
I think for now they'll coexist for a while, because as I said, I'm very lucky. I can utilize my intellectual brain and to work as a lawyer, and also my creative brain for Peace Lab. But because I'm still a lawyer, and I would like to see in the future the legal profession, we'll also openly talk about well-being, and we can't change the fact we're one of the most stressful professions out there, but we can be more resilient to counter stress and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think I'll just take one day at a time and focus on whatever is in front of me, and hopefully we'll grow Peace Lab as well, beyond just the legal profession, to all people, to advocate a new way to counter stress, a new way to approach well-being, and don't have to be so serious. Yeah, so my motto now is, we laugh, we play, we meditate. Yeah.
I like the motto.
Yes.
This has been wonderful, Elva. Thank you for being here and sharing your insights.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Now, Elva and I would love to hear from you. What is the biggest insight you're taking away from today's conversation? Comment and share below and let us know. If you like this episode, please subscribe to our channels and share this video with your friends. And thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time on Gatehouse Insights.